Hey, what's going on, guys? I hope you guys are having a good day. I'm gonna let you guys come in. We're about to start a conversation with a really special guest here on Dr. Boyce TV. Today, I have the distinct privilege and honor and opportunity to address and hang out with the one and only Mechee X. You might know Mechee from Fly Nubian Queen and also from her YouTube channel, at the Mechee X channel, and just all over the internet. Everybody's talking about Mechee X because she's just a badass black woman. So before we begin, I want to ask Mechee, how you doing today?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. I'm glad that you're here. And I want to say sorry to everybody. When I told you guys we were starting at 2 Eastern, that's my fault. Mechee and I were catching up, and whenever we start catching up, there's always so much to talk about. And believe it or not, a lot of the things that we talk about with you guys are things that we talk about behind the scenes too. And so, Mechee, let's get started. So first of all, everybody who's in here, please hit that thumbs up button, hit that like button, share button, and all that stuff, so that more people see this conversation. These are important conversations about what's going on in the world and in our community. Please hit the thumbs up button if you haven't done that yet. And so, Mechee, I want to just jump right in, and I want to ask you about this. I read a story. There's a brother out of New York, and the brother's name what is hold on, I'm pulling his name up. His name is Reginald Wiggins. Reginald Wiggins, a black man, he's filing a lawsuit against the city of New York and the NYPD, etc., because Reginald says that he was locked away at Rikers Island for 10 years, and he did not even get a trial. And now I remember a lot of people knew what happened with Khalif Browder, but I didn't even know this shit was still happening. Like, did you read that story? Or did you hear about it? What are your thoughts on that?
I did. I read it, and actually, I wasn't surprised, because if you go and look up people being held beyond a speedy trial in Rikers, this is actually a very common thing. They do this all the time. I mean, we know about Khalif Browder, right? We're hearing about this man, but there were also plenty of other cases of a man who spent 6 years there, and they actually dismissed his charges because the Supreme Court upheld the fact that they had violated his rights to a speedy trial. My understanding is that when I look at all of the cases I've seen, these are either black men or, of course, Hispanic men. It's not white men that I found any cases of. But there's actually someone there right now who is going on almost 3 years, who is in there, who hasn't had a trial yet either, as we speak, another young man. And so this is not something that is uncommon for Rikers. Actually, they do this a lot. And so we should be, I feel like these are the things that we should be upset with. We should be upset about a lot, but we don't take our energy, I think, and our power and put it in the right direction, because the bottom line is that they are breaking the law. Okay. In the law, there are a lot of other laws. We call them loopholes, right? And this law will override that law, and this law override that law. But when we talk about the court of law and your right to certain things in a trial, like your right to plead the fifth, there's no law that tells you, well, you have to testify. You have to speak if you're pleading the fifth, right? So there are certain laws that are just what it is, and there isn't any loopholes for them. And a right to a speedy trial is exactly one of those. There is no law that says, depending on a certain situation, you can hold somebody past a certain time. That is violating their constitutional rights. That is something that is as serious as, I don't know how many people know this, but this is a very common thing. If you can show the fact that an officer did not, in questioning you, read you your Miranda rights, right? Your whole confession can be thrown out. There are a lot of things that can happen in that. You can let the person go. Charges can be dropped because you didn't Mirandize a person. So when we talk about the laws in the court of law, the way that your trial is set up, those things are pretty much set in stone. And you are not allowed to hold any being with them not having a trial, being found guilty, and hold them as if they are a guilty person. I mean, a man that done spent 9 years, you might as well say he's guilty, right? I mean, he doesn't serve the whole sentence, and you haven't even proved he's done anything. And so I would say these are the situations that we need to make lots of noise, right? We need to bring attention to. This is where people need to be protesting and bringing all of this attention to what's going on at Rikers, because Rikers need to get it together, or Rikers needs to be shut down. We need some internal investigations going on. You can't just take people and lock them up and hold them. That is against the Constitution. That is their right, and there's no way around that, right? If nobody has bail, now if somebody is going to court, let's make this clear. Somebody's going to court, going to trial, but they've made bail, they're a free person. You will see there are times when their trial may take a couple of years, right? But these people are free. If you're free and you're out on bail and you've decided to go to trial and you have all these things and your trial is starting, that is, you know, something that can happen, but you're a free person. When you have a person locked behind bars, you're not allowed to take this long with their trial, you know. And I don't want to hear, let me say this too. If people will say, well, who goes to jail for this, right? Because this is actually breaking the law. This is violating people's rights. So who is held accountable for this? When these people, their rights are being violated. There are people that are breaking the law. So let me say this. Don't let nobody give us no hoopla talking about, well, how do you hold the whole system accountable? You don't. Let me tell you who should be held accountable. There's a district attorney. There is a public defender. I'm assuming that's what these people have because they've been in there this long. These are all entities of the state. And there is a judge, right? And all of them have dropped the ball so many times that you go back, you find out who these judges are, who these district attorneys are, and you charge their ass. This is how you do it, because it is up to the district attorney and it is ultimately up to the judge. But once you keep bringing a person before the court, if the state is not ready to proceed and move forward, there comes a certain point in time where his attorney or her attorney should say, they have not moved in the time of a speedy trial. I would like to move to dismiss. They don't have enough evidence to move forward, and they're supposed to present that with the court. If the district attorney doesn't agree with that, if the defense attorney doesn't bring that up, which is something they should do, then you have a judge who is supposed to say, that sits on that bench, look, we've come in and out of here. It's already been so many months. This person's right to a speedy trial is being violated, and ask the district attorney, do you have enough evidence and are you ready to move forward today? If not, I am dismissing these charges. So that's who's held accountable. The district attorneys in these cases, the public defenders in these cases that did not fight for this, and the judge who ultimately had the responsibility of throwing this shit out of their courtroom when they saw that it got past a speedy trial, much less 9 years, seriously, 6 years for some of these people. Khalif sat in there for 3 years. There's another person in there right now for 3 years. There was another one that spent 8 years. They are giving people sentences and making them serve them without finding them guilty of anything. This is the shit that we should be trying to change, because it can be changed.
Everybody who's watching, I'm here with Mechee X, who previously was Fly Nubian Queen, but now she's doing a lot of other things in the world as well. And we're talking about a brother in Rikers Island, a brother by the name of Reginald Wiggins, who was held at Rikers for 9 years. And he had no trial, no nothing, no conviction, no nothing. And what Mechee is basically saying, and I agree with you, Mechee. I mean, it's kind of funny that, you know, it's kind of weird how they want to convince us that Black people just fall through the cracks. I mean, you know, if you really think about this concept, this whole idea of the term Black Lives Matter, which we know got co-opted and made into all this other stuff, but just using that, just looking at that term alone, Black Lives Matter, the reason that that term carries weight and significance when you say it is because everything about this case says that a Black life does not matter.
Right?
It says that literally we give so few fucks about your life, about your freedom, about your family, about you, that we literally can just put you in a cell, no charges, no trial, no nothing, and just forget that you were there for 9 years. And then when we figure the shit out, we're like, oh, we're sorry. Good luck with your life. Like no concern at all. I mean, think about this. This is interesting, right? A white woman, there was a white woman on TV, I forgot her name, and she went to a hotel room, and there was a perverted guy at the hotel who put a little hidden camera in her room because he wanted to see her naked, right? So he put the little camera in her room and he videotaped her naked without her permission. Well, they found out that he did it, right? She goes back and sues the hotel. You know how much money she got? She got $50 million. So a white woman can get $50 million because somebody saw her naked once, literally saw her naked one time, $50 million. The lady that put Bill Cosby in prison, that old she-man looking woman, you know what I'm talking about, with the Adam's apple, she got $3 million because he touched her boob. But you got Black
voting the stripper, and they get paid to get boobs touched. Bill should have went to the strip club.
Right, exactly. And they got real boobs, because you know she ain't got no titties. Come on now. She might have a little penis or something, but she ain't got no titties. But anyway, but let me quit. But the point of the matter, though, is that it's fascinating to me how blatant. I mean, if people want to understand racism, I mean, it's just blatant. as you can get. Like they literally just, when they do something like this, it's like they're just shitting all over Black people and just telling you in 1,001 ways that we don't like you, we don't care nothing about you, and we don't feel the need to even act like we're concerned about you or your children. I mean, this is like, he was 16 years old when he got locked up. Like that was something we didn't mention. He was a kid. He's going to school one day with his friends. Next thing you know, he's in Rikers, in grown man prison at 16 years old, in grown man prison, going through all God knows what. And you have him there for 9 years, and they're just like, oh, sorry, we apologize. It's crazy to me. That I think that's the part that I think we have to let sink in a little bit.
Well, yeah, and I want people to think about the fact of, if a person is in prison all of this time and they have not been found guilty of anything, I mean, I'm sure that if you had evidence, you would have moved forward in these situations. I want people to imagine being innocent of something and you're just guilty of being Black because you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, like Khalif Broward, right? Wrong place, wrong time, you're Black, they don't care. See, it reminds me of this like Jussie story. They can miss me with that, talking about Jussie need to apologize to everybody. Like Jussie need to apologize to the people he was working with, right? Because he messed up their careers. Now that they shows over, they might want to put a can of whoop ass on them, and that's their right? But as far as us as Black people in this nation, he doesn't owe us any apology. I think it's ridiculous that he's getting the charges he's getting. You know why? Because people scream a Black person did it, and then we just lock up any Black person we catch walking down the street within a couple of blocks radius. They could have said he had on a black shirt, but this brother got on a red shirt. See, this is what happened to Khalif. And so being Black is a crime, and you can put them in prison and say, we're going to give you a trial, which they're supposed to, and they don't give them a trial. Prison is not a nice place. I want people to know, when you look at the video of what happened to Khalif, he was in there for 3 years, right? This boy got out and he committed suicide after the fact that he was free. After the fact that he was free, because there's no dollar amount that you could give him for what you did against him, or even this man that's been there 9 years, for the mental and the physical and the emotional torment that they have suffered, especially in a place like Rikers. No prison is a nice prison, let me tell you, but Rikers is a very horrible one. We have plenty of prisons over the time that are notorious for being very brutal prisons, right? And a lot of them have been shut down from back in the old days, but obviously some of them still stand. But for them to go through everything they're going through, you couldn't even give this man enough money to fix the damage that you have done. But they care nothing about breaking the minds, the emotional stability, and the way that they do Black people in this country. They've been doing it since the plantation. So it's a very offensive to me to say, oh, okay, I don't give a damn if they come forward and give this man $20 million. It will not fix. See, we have to understand there are some things in life that money just won't fix for you. Some things that money will not buy. And I don't care how much they give this man, they will never be able to give him back everything that they have taken from him. And, fuck some money. Why don't you send these people to jail that are accountable for the fact that he sat in there for 9 years, and maybe they will stop doing it. So, I think it's devastating on a whole nother level. We tend to not focus on that because as Black people, we talk about how strong we are and how we have endured so much, but it doesn't mean we're not human beings. It doesn't mean that we're not breakable. It doesn't mean that we're not traumatized. Just like mental health is a stigma on the Black community. Nobody wants to say I'm suffering with issues, but as Black people, we all got some damn issues. But what they have put on this man is the same thing they've always done to us, is that it doesn't matter how much we break you down and brutalize you from the inside, right? Even on the out. That doesn't matter. Just get a nigga $1 and give him a check and tell him we're sorry. I'm sorry. $1 amount wouldn't be enough for me. Just like reparations will never be enough for me. If I was this man, you keep your check. I want some revenge. I want some justice. Reparations would never just be enough for me. I don't know why white America think they can write. I'm gonna tell you why. They think Black folks are so destitute and we so poor. Write these niggas a check and they'll forget about everything. We need to stop having that type of a mentality. No, I don't want a check. I want justice. I want what needs to be done to be done. So even with reparations, they hand you a check. If they ain't changing nothing, that check don't mean nothing. And it'll be gone back to capitalism real soon. And they're going to get it all right back from us anyway. So we have to think about that too. You can't just grab our babies off the street. And you say this man was 16. He was a kid. He's coming out as a man later, but he's still a 16-year-old, and he's been socialized in a prison life. His hardest issue and his biggest endeavor coming out will be learning how to survive in the real world, how to socially interact in a world that he was not socialized in, because prison is not regular society. And he's coming out with the mentality of prison, the socialization of prison, and the mind of a 16-year-old boy. And those are some issues that we don't ever want to talk about, the effect that it has. Now, if this boy do go out and start committing crime because prison teach you how to be a better criminal, then we're going to say, see, so what? He spent 9 years. He back in here now on a charge that's legit. This is what America likes to do. But the truth is, if he does that, they created that criminal, because that's what prisons do. They make better criminals. They do not rehabilitate people at all.
No, they don't. Everybody, this is Mechee X, and we are talking about the brother of, I keep losing his name, Reginald Wiggins, who actually just filed a lawsuit because he was actually put in Rikers at the age of 16, left there 9.5, 10 years with no trial, there's no conviction, no nothing. And I want everybody to do this. Please show your respect to Mechee, support the channel, hit the thumbs up button. Please hit that thumbs up button. If you're on YouTube anywhere, Instagram, Facebook, wherever, please hit the thumbs up button, and also share this video. And don't forget also the podcast, Dr. Boyce TV, is on iTunes. So if you have iTunes, just look for my name on iTunes, and you can find it there too. So Mechee, and also with Mechee, you can follow Mechee on YouTube and Instagram, everywhere. Look up Mechee X, and you can subscribe to her channel as well. So please make sure you do that also. So Mechee, yeah, I think that the thing that's interesting to me about it is that I see a lot of this as kind of this constant reminder of how people look at Black people. And there was a study that actually said this, that they think Black people, they actually did a survey and found that white people really believe Black people feel less pain, and the fact that they believe that we feel less pain, I think that that's why they would be far more sensitive if, something happens, like somebody touches a white woman's booty, and, and they would understand why she needs 10 years of therapy and $20 million, and there's no penalty too high, no punishment too great, to compensate her for that. But when you talk about a Black boy or a Black young lady that goes off to prison, where you have nightmares that are beyond comprehension occurring in that place, there's very little conversation about that, very little sympathy. Like, I really believe that they really think that the Black man just has no emotions. I think really they look at Black men like we're animals. And with an animal, you don't care if somebody tells you that the cows get scared before you chop their head off, or the pigs get nervous when you're about to kill them. Don't nobody give a shit. Nobody care, right? And so with Khalif Browder, the brother that went to Rikers for a few years and then got out, had his freedom, and ended up still killing himself after he had his freedom. That just really, I think, speaks to the torment and the torture that so many of our people go through when they've had to experience, the difficulties of the prison system. And you're right. And the question is, what benefit does mass incarceration have for anybody other than the capitalists who make money from prisons? What benefit does it benefit society? No. Does it make society safer? No. Does it create better human beings? No. All it's good for is making money for rich people who give no fucks, who could be making money elsewhere, but they choose to make money through enslavement. And it allows for the continuation of racial segregation, which I believe is something that white folks have always wanted anyway. They've always wanted us in the underclass of society so that we're not competing with them for jobs or for women or for whatever it is. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, somebody said, I want to address the question. No, they said that how many innocent people are on Rikers, and that's what I want to say too. Like, at this point, since we know this is coming forward, are we going to make a fuss? Are we going to make a noise about the fact of, now let's talk about how many other innocent people do you have in there holding them beyond this point? Because I'm sure there's others that we don't know about. But you're right, they do look at us like as if we're animals. I mean, this is a fact. It's been documented since slavery. If anybody knows about the father of psychology, they took his statue down, but if you read a book called The Medical Apartheid, just brace yourself, not because it's a long book, because it's a book that's not going to be easy to read. You're going to put it down a lot of times, but that's exactly what they said. They said that we were equated to dogs, like we didn't feel any pain, and the father of gynecology learned how to be that off of Black women that he would buy as slaves, and he would have his medical assistants, which were white people at the time, hold these women down, and he would do things, ladies that are listening. He created the speculum when they give you a pap smear, but he also did the hysterectomy. He's also done plenty of other things, right? But he did all of this to women without any anesthesia. So he said because they didn't need it. But I don't understand how they believe that, because these women would squirm and scream in so much pain that even the white people, now remember this was at a time where they didn't have any regard for Black people at all. So for white people to say, we can't stand here and hold these women down anymore, his white assistants walked away from him, and then he made the Black slaves that he had actually be the ones to hold down the women so that he could do the things that he was doing to them. So yes, they've always equated us to that as dogs. And I believe that that is true all the way across the board. You can still see that today, right? You can see that today. Whether it's our children or our men, they don't think that they're ever traumatized by anything. Like I said, mental health is a a stigma in the Black community, because we're taught we're supposed to be so strong, to be Black. But the truth is, so many of our people are broken. If it is one thing that we need, we need so much, it would definitely be to deal with all of the things that happen to us, and how it mentally messes us up, right? We're at war, and people don't tend to understand that it's like silent weapons. You don't even realize you're at war, but you're being traumatized. So PTSD is something that people that have never been off the war, if you're Black and you live here, you may have experienced those things, right? Because of the trauma that we go through. And even when you look at our children, speaking of the court system, they try children as adults more than ever. And this white supremacist capitalistic ass society has gotten so diabolical that now that they've run out of, grown ass people to put in prisons, and they want even more, they're like, well, let's just get these kids. Let's get these kids and let's put these kids in prison, and then they can just live a lifelong. If you're 16 and you go to prison, if you're 14 and you go to prison, right, and you have these sentences, you're guaranteed to come back, because that is the most vulnerable time of them being developed into society. And if you get them in prison at that time, guess what? They're not going to know anything else when they come out but criminal activity, because prisons teach you how to be better criminals, right? You're watching your back 24/7. People will shank you. The guards will beat you up. You can die. Folks will steal your stuff. You will get raped. People are not playing, and this happened in men's jails and it happened in women's prisons. So we're not going to act like it doesn't happen. But you also know by facts that they actually send our children at a 3 times higher rate. Black children, they try them as adults more than anybody else, because they don't care about us, right? And they feel like, oh, their kids are, that's why school officers will slam your children to the ground. This is why police are so aggressive, even with our girls and our children, because they look at us like we have no value. They're just animals and they're dogs. Now, when they standing on the necks of 14-year-old girls, like the video we saw over a year ago, at a pool party, they don't see their daughter. Do you remember that movie, A Time to Kill? And they were in the courtroom, and that man was talking about what they did to that Black girl, how they beat her, they raped her, they peed on her. And then everybody in the jury in the box is listening to how they raped up this Black little girl in this movie. And then he says to them one really profound thing. He says he wanted them to close their eyes, and he's telling them all of these things they did to this girl. And then he says, now imagine that she was white. And the emotions evoked in those people and the looks on their faces was like, wow, because for them not to be white or for them to be Black, let's say that, they did not see that girl as a human being. They did not have any remorse for her because of the color of her skin. And that is still very true today. They do. They think we feel no pain. And I have to even say this, and finishing my comment on this is that as Black people, we have to be careful, because too much do we spew this rhetoric and this commentary of we Black and we strong and Black women are so strong and Black men are so strong. And we scream that so much that we force ourselves to act like we have a problem with saying, I'm hurt. I'm in pain. I'm emotionally distraught. I need help. I might be an independent Black woman, but guess what? I'm not strong. I'm weak, and I need a man, and I need my community. And men that are Black men don't know how to say, well, you know what? I need my brothers to be there for me. I don't want to be so tough that I don't need anybody in my life, right? And, I am traumatized by the things that have happened to me, but I can't talk about my molestation because Black men are supposed to be strong. I can't say about how my sexual dysfunction bothers me, or how I'm scared as a young man, for them to walk around in these streets knowing that their life is at danger at any age, and that they're fearful every time they walk out the door of their house. Instead, they told a gun and they tell you they tough, because we tell each other, we do that. You got to be strong. You got to man up. You got to be tough. Black folks are strong. We come from a long line of ancestors who are strong. But let me tell you something else that takes strength. It takes strength to say that I'm broken and I need some help. It takes strength to say that I don't got it all together. It takes strength to say that I need somebody to help me. And it takes strength to say that even though I don't got it all together, my strength says I want to get it together, but I'm never going to get there if I don't admit that I need the help that I need. And we don't tend to do that as a Black community. So to some extent, we don't allow ourselves to be human beings either. Not that we equate ourselves with dogs, but I don't know. When we're running around in parks and we're shooting up parks with kids in it, trying to get back at the one person we're mad at because of some stupid shit. They ain't killed nobody because they're on our territory, or they looked at me wrong, or they're another gang. So now their life is disposable, and so are all these babies in the park. So to some extent, do we as Black people look at ourselves like we don't feel no pain, or like we dogs, or we can't be traumatized because, you know, the police just had their knee in your neck and you was bruised up and you was scared and you thought you was finna die. I'm traumatized a little bit right now. Are we allowed to say that to one another? So that's the question I would like to throw out to the Black community and leave with them in that vein. How do we see each other?
Well, what do you guys think? Make a comment. You guys say something about this, you know, in terms of what you think about what Mechee's saying. I'm talking to Mechee X, by the way. And we're talking about, we started talking about Brother Reginald Wiggins, who was held in Rikers for 9 years with no trial, no nothing. But this spins into Black pain, and whether or not, you know, we're able to, you know, admit when we are hurting, whether or not we are able to see ourselves as human. You know, we know how white folks see us. The question is, how do we see ourselves? White supremacy, I agree with you, Mitch. I mean, you know, when you think about white supremacy, it's a two-person tango, right? You know, like you can't have dominance over somebody who refuses to be dominated, right? Dominance is easiest when you convince the other party to be submissive, right? So for Black folks, we have learned to submit ourselves to white supremacy. In fact, we are some of the greatest supporters and funders of white supremacy that there are. You know, we treat white folks better. We give them all of our money. You know, we send our children to white people to be educated because we believe white people are better at everything, right? So ultimately, you know, we are complicit in that, and I do agree with that. Now, I was thinking about another thing in terms of the whole idea of being strong and what that means in a world where so much trauma is inflicted upon us. And I was thinking about this. I was thinking about the fact that I like the idea of being a strong Black man, right? Like I like that, you know, like my value system growing up was one where my daddy was like, boy, ain't nobody gonna fucking feel sorry for you. Get up off your ass and go do something, right? But at the same time, I hear what you're saying, right? Where it's sort of like you can't be insensitive to the bullshit that somebody else has done to you. Like you can't just say like, okay, a white woman, you know, can get $10 million because somebody cussed her out and hurt her feelings. But as a Black man, if a cop beats me upside the head or does whatever, it's just par for the course. Like, well, I'm a nigger, so that's all I can expect is nigger treatment. So I just better man up and just accept it, right? Like, so I think that part of self-esteem is knowing when you deserve, you know, to be repaired. Like you talk about reparations. We deserve reparations. That's our fucking money. And we don't deserve $500 billion or $2 trillion. It's really more like 10 trillion, you know, because we're worth that. You know, it's
like half this country and the Europeans need to leave and we'll work it out with whoever.
Exactly. Take your ass home.
To us, damn it.
Get the fuck out. Yeah. You know, and I think that it's kind of like, you know, the way I tend to see the strength of Black people, I don't have a problem saying to people that I admire the fact that Black women are strong because I grew up around really strong Black women. I have a strong Black woman by my side. I like that in Black women. But I agree. But the thing is that to your point, though, I see it almost like, look, we are fucking superheroes as Black people. Like nobody's overcome what we've overcome and done what we've done with what little we had. Like nobody can do that. We literally made $1 out of not 15 cents. We made $1 out of half a penny. You know what I mean? Like we've come a long way.
But Superman got a kryptonite.
Exactly.
We don't acknowledge our kryptonites. There's something that weakens us all and we don't acknowledge it, but in the long run actually makes us weaker and more vulnerable.
Yeah, well, you know, and I agree. I think that it's like, but what I think as Black people, we got to understand is when, you know, when you mentioned that point about, you know, I'm a strong Black woman, I don't need no man. Or I'm a strong Black man, I don't need a Black woman, right? I think that, the way I tend to see it is, I think that as individuals, we are very strong, but adding to your point, we're stronger together, right? To me, that means, like, I might say, look, I'm a strong man. I can do a lot of stuff. Like, just think about business as an entrepreneur, right? Like, you and I were talking about this before we came on. It's like, yeah, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I'll fight you, and I'll take you to the end of the earth if I got to. But I'm better, when I have other great Black people I can work with, that I can partner with. You know what I mean? Like, I'm nothing without the people that are watching us right now, the partners, the people that are coming here every day, supporting what we're doing. I'm better when you and I are friends and we're working together. You know what I mean? And that's why you and I were talking about, like, just generally all the Black folks that are out here, like, stop fucking fighting each other and work together. Like, stop acting like you can go conquer everything on your own. You can't take down white supremacy by yourself. But if we are teammates, we could probably do a more effective job of that, right? So to your point, I agree with you. I think that you can have strength, but I think the vulnerability has to be admitted when it comes to A, the fact that you're better when you work together, and then B, sometimes accepting the fact that you have been hurt, but then not finishing the conversation there. Like you say, look, I'm hurt, I'm broken, but I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna get up, and I invite you to help me to do that, right? Go ahead. I'll let you get the last word, Meech. I don't want to take all your time. Go ahead. What are your thoughts? I know you got something to say, because you always do. I
agree with that, because we do have strength, but I believe in life there has to be a balance in everything, right? If all you do is hate, then you you're missing the point of how you got to balance it with some love. If all you do is love everybody, you become vulnerable. You need to have some hate somewhere, right? Hate is not a bad thing, you guys. Like, I hate Brussels sprouts. That's okay. Some things you can hate, right? And some people you can't too. But, I guess to my point is that I think that we are such a broken people, and if we focus on strong too much to where we're not there for one another, right? For example, bringing this back to the prison thing with Khalif Browder, and even the man we're talking about, now that went in at 16. Now, my son went to prison at 16 years old, tried as an adult. He will be getting out in September. He has been gone a long time. Almost, 8 years. And so when he comes home, what I will say is the first thing that I am more concerned with my son is not him getting clothes again, or even focusing on getting a job at this moment, because he left as a 16-year-old. My biggest asset that I want my son to have when he comes home is a peace of mind and some type of a counselor that can help him work through his issues, because we're not going to act like he doesn't have any. My son has gone through a lot. For him to sit and call me on the phone and say, Mom, I can't call you back later on tonight because everybody's on lockdown and they don't let us out our cell because somebody's dying tonight. And when they put somebody to death, nobody can move around. The fact that my son is down the hall from where somebody's being murdered, he may think it has no effect on him because he's experienced this many times over the years in some of the facilities they've had him in. But that is not a normal thing for a child to have to deal with. You understand what I'm saying? And so Khalif Browder was free. It wasn't the imprisonment that he was in, right, that killed him. It was the imprisonment in his mind that he could not get over. And had somebody offered that boy some help mentally, which is some things we don't like to say, that we are broken in that way, he might still be with us today. But we don't put enough emphasis on those things in our community, right? We have sexual trauma, we just don't talk about it. And then we just say, move on with your life, not knowing that affects you majorly in your life. Maybe had somebody talk to R. Kelly, we might not be dealing with this today when he first had his trauma. So all I'm saying is, we don't need to show our weakness to the white man. Yeah, let's be strong, but we need to be able to be vulnerable with one another and be honest about how we feel. And to bring that back to vulnerability and humbleness, let me talk about you saying us all working together, Black people. I want to say this too, because there are times that, people will see me, I'm spitting my truth, and then hear Mechee come and she beefing with some other Black person, right? I want to say this and that, right? That I want to say that we all are human beings. And you see Mechee be like, that's my strength. Like, you're not going to keep talking down on me. You're not going to keep making videos about me, saying things about me that are untrue. So now I'm going to say something back. See, there go that strength. I'm only going to let you do this for so long. See, we always want to jump in that strength. But we also have to do something. And I would say that I don't regret any confrontation I've had with any Black person on YouTube, just because people will say to me, this is petty, or this is immature, or why you doing this? Well, fine. don't watch then. But these are truly the things that we're dealing with in our communities every single day. And the fact that it's played out for everybody to see, what I am more proud of the fact is that anybody I've had an issue with that is willing to speak with me or anything else, that I've been willing to work those things out. And people who won't speak with me, I'll still shout out to them. Like, you know what? There's nobody I've had a beef with that in my being vulnerable and not being so strong that I fight myself for my own people, I'm willing to be what people want to call weak or be humble and apologize. You know, and I've always thrown that out there. Like, we can have differences, but this is where we never get to, right? We never talk about our pain or our hurt. Sisters don't know how to sit down and talk to another sister and be like, yo, my strength is when I was ready to fight your ass. But this humbleness and this weakness, not to a white person, but to you, sis, says, you hurt me when you said that. It bothered me when you said that. Why did you do that? Well, you know what? I did it. And then we work it out, right? Too many times we think that that is weakness, and we're so strong that it's okay to be weak with one another. And we need to learn to do that, to how we can learn to come together. Because sometimes we keep this, I'm so strong, we use that against one another too much, right? If you're too strong sometimes can lead into having too much pride, and that's not never good. So we got to find a balance. Who we being strong against and what we being strong for, you know? And so I would just like to see the Black community a whole lot more understanding everything that we deal with. Fuck getting a white man to see us as more than not a dog or not having any pain, that we begin to realize that we are also broken as people. And when we begin to express our brokenness and stop hiding it, we will find that so many others around us are broken in the same way. And then we become each other's strength and understanding that we do have a weakness, and then we get to pick each other up. And like what you said, there is so much more strength and unity than we can ever have alone. Because alone, you're unsure sometimes. Alone, you don't have all the answers. But if you surround yourself with other people, especially those that are experiencing what you're experiencing, they may have the answer, right? And so we are definitely stronger in numbers, and we do need to be weak enough that we can come to each other and be vulnerable with each other, right? So like I say, with all the people that I've beefed with, I love them people. I said what I had to say, but if it really came down to it and it was time to do some fighting, I don't give a damn about our dispute. I'll put that shit to the side. I'll be the first to motherfucking apologize, because we have something that we need to fight. But it's also realistic that we fight with each other a lot. So that's real. And pushing that to the back, and just because we commentators or we work to act like we don't ever fight with each other, that would be doing an injustice too, because we're not being honest. I think the better thing is that we have these issues publicly. We learn how to rectify them publicly. And at the same time that we are teaching each other something, we're also teaching those that are watching something. And I think those are the real moments that really help the Black community, more so than just putting on a face and, you know, acting like it's all good. But we do that from YouTube streets to our community streets. We do that everywhere. It's all good. Let me give you this last little story before we get out of here. But we say that too often and we're not good. And sometimes you got to check a brother and sister and say, they're like, oh, I'm good. You got to look at them and be like, no, you're not. And it's okay to not be. I'm going to tell you a story that happened this weekend with me and my children. My daughter that is 17, there is a grown woman who jumped on my daughter. She came with a bunch of other adults because of some dispute that kid she was hanging with was having with her daughter. So these adults came over. Somehow they targeted my child, even though she wasn't the one with the beef. This woman beat my daughter up. Grown woman jumped on my daughter. So here I come with my strength, and I'm like, what? You don't put your hands on my child. So I'm mad, right? So I asked him, where's this woman at? Because I want to know, why is she jumping on my child? My understanding, they didn't tell me, like a week ago, they were at the mall and this woman was there talking junk to her group of friends too. So I'm like, okay, let me go and speak with this woman, adult to adult, because you can't be putting your hands on my kids. Now, let me tell y'all a story. Now, we talk about police in our own communities. So my first instinct wasn't to call the police on this woman, although she did assault a minor and she could go her ass to jail, right? I wanted to speak with this sister because she's another Black woman. So I go over to her house. Okay. And she's just pulling up from jumping on my daughter because my daughter called me. I was there in 2 seconds. Right. So I'm like, well, where does this woman live? Show me her house. So we get to the house. I go over to knock on the door. They're in the window yelling at me, the woman and the children. Right. The woman who did it is hiding. Somebody throws a 12-inch knife out the window at me. It sticks in the ground, barely misses me. And I say, oh, y'all crazy. See, I try to come over here, have some conversations. I see no adults living around here. I'm just calling the motherfucking police then, because now you throwing knives at people. Do you know that this woman comes downstairs to her front door? She pulls out her gun and she busts 5 shots at me and my children standing in her front yard. My children are running because they are terrified. And this is a Black woman now, right? So we get up on the thing, and the person that was with us, right? Bianca was with us. Shout out to Bianca, my homegirl who do hair on Fly Nubian Queen. She got in the car. She's already called the police. So they hear the shots, but they threw the knife out the window at me. They hear the shots and everybody shows up. So now Not only do we involve the cops, and you could have killed me or my kids, the police are there and they're telling us to get back behind the car, and they rolling up on this house like SWAT team, like they about to get somebody with big ass guns and bullets strapped across them like this is a war zone. The last thing that I want to see, because I don't give no damn about the police, but lady, you can't be out here busting shots at kids and people when they just trying to rectify something with you. So we come home, it's a long night, we stood outside, the ambulance came for my daughter, we had to give all of these things, my children are crying, we get home, I asked them the next day, are they okay? We're okay. We're okay, mom, it's fine. No, you're not okay. Okay, it's not a normal thing. Now being in Detroit, the first time I ever ran from bullets, I was 5. So it's something that's normal to me. I haven't raised my children in those type of environments, right? But for that to happen, it's not a normal thing. They were out there crying, but of course they're like, I'm okay. Sometimes you got to look at what happens to people in our lives and even our children, because we live in these hoods, and it's not okay. If your kid is at the park and somebody bust shots and a kid died, but they're not the one that died, they're not okay. Don't send them to school. Don't make them move on with their life. And if they tell you they're okay, that's because the hood always tell us we're supposed to be all right. I told my children, you're not okay. You're going to go speak with somebody. You're going to talk with one of my friends who is a counselor, and just talk about how the experience made you feel. Because when y'all was running, you thought you were gonna die. Y'all done fell in ditches. Y'all got bruises on y'all from running. My son was behind the car hiding, crying. You don't get to tell me you're okay. And we experience things like this every day in our community, right? And we just move on. Your kid can experience, you know how many Black people I see in the community, kids be in the middle of some type of shootout or some shit happens and they survive. And because it wasn't them that got hurt, you get them dressed and put on that damn uniform and you send them to school the next day anyway. Give our people a moment, especially our babies, to cope with the things that are happening to them. Because you're not okay, I told my children, because this is not normal for people to just be shooting at you and for you to be fearing for your life. That is not normal. So you're not okay. And I don't want you to think this is normal and be okay with it. So we have to have this conversation with somebody other than me so you can really express how you feel, because sometimes children don't always want to do that with their parent. So this is what I'm talking about. Too often are we quick to say, I'm good, I'm okay, from the time we're a child, just thinking this is normal life, because so much chaotic shit is always going on around us. You know, they just found a kid dead at the mall my daughter went to school with. So they see these kids die every day and they're like, well, at least I ain't dead. So they think they're in a luckier situation. But the truth is that trauma affects you. That situation affected my children. And most of us, it don't affect us. So we just move on and make our kids move on from everything that we deal with in the hood. We got to stop doing that, especially starting with our babies. They go through something traumatizing, unless you want them to begin to move in a direction that they think that is normal life. And if you are setting your children up to function in dysfunction, then that's one thing. But who wants somebody to function in dysfunction? I want them to be functional without all of that dysfunction. And that's where it starts, by putting your children in situations that are like war zones, or things happening to them that normal children shouldn't have to deal with and normal people shouldn't have to deal with. And then we just like, well, that's the hood and that's life. It's not. And we got to start dealing with those things. And it's okay to tell somebody you're not okay. You just got shot at. You just got jumped on. You know, the police just beat you down. You're not okay. And it's okay to say, we're not okay, Black people. Just don't say it to the white folks. Say it to other Black people.
I am stunned by that story. I did not know you was gonna pull that out of your ass. This weekend, I got shot at 5 times. Like, we didn't even, y'all, I just want y'all to know, we didn't plan on talking about none of this. She didn't mention this shit. So that, I'm glad you're okay. How do you feel? How are you doing?
Well, see, this is the difference. It's like I told you, the first time I ever ran from bullets, I was 5. I was at the candy shop in Detroit with my 7-year-old brother. 2 guys were arguing. His daddy pulled up and popped his trunk. Back in the day, if somebody said they pop in their trunk, you better run. That meant something, right? And he just started shooting at everybody. And I remember my brother taking my hand and saying, duck. While you running, duck. And he took my hand and we ran. And I can't tell you how many times I've been somewhere in a public place, or, you know, when I was young and went to the club, or just being in a community sitting on the porch. I've had to dodge bullets a whole lot and run for my life. But it has become so normal to me. I have to tell you that other than fearing for my children's life, I wasn't even fearful for myself in that situation. Like, my children got away and they were okay. When it was all said and done, I was actually angry this woman shot at me and my kids. And in my anger, I wasn't traumatized. I wanted to go find this chick, right? Because I couldn't believe that you just did that after you just beat up my daughter and now you're shooting, and you got kids in the house. What kind of mama is you? I wasn't traumatized. I was angry. And see, that's the thing. My children have never been shot at. So I didn't want them to end up like me. I've run from bullets so much being from Detroit and living in the hood that, yeah, we did just used to like run from some shots. And then after it was over, we at the corner getting a corned beef sandwich going on with our day. Like we didn't just get shot at and we couldn't be dead right now, right? It didn't affect me like that because I've become so immune to running from bullets in my life. And I don't want my children to feel that way. That's why I made them talk about it. I made them say they weren't okay because I watched you cry. I watched you crouch behind a car. I watched you be fearful and what happened to you, so you don't get to tell me you're okay. And nobody did that for me. So running from bullets was normal. I don't want it to be normal for my kids. And so, yeah, it did. Other than it being my children, I wasn't traumatized from the bullets like that. I was traumatized over the fact that my children were in that situation. You know, I maybe felt even some guilt to where I told myself, why did you even take your kids? But I was taking my daughter back so that we could work out what was going on with her daughter and understand why you jumped on my daughter and can we rectify this? But I'm quickly learning that women my age and adults in our community, nobody's an adult anymore. You know, I remember when you could knock on the door and talk to a parent and we would fuss at the kids. Like, if y'all don't stop this shit, ain't nobody got time to be going back and forth. You don't say nothing to her. You don't say nothing to her and it's done. But we didn't go beat up kids for our children. And we surely didn't shoot at children instead of just talking to a parent. So, you know, I don't even know what to do with that. But sad to say those things happen all the time in the hood.
And the thing that crossed my mind too, when you telling the story, Mechee, is, you know, it was probably fear of you that led her to react the way she did, right? I'd be willing to bet you that if she knew that you were just coming there to talk, that she wouldn't have did all that shit with the gun. I don't know. What do you think?
I was walking away. I was actually walking away. They, like I said, when I first came to her house, I was mad. I was like, what grown up is in here whooping on my damn kids? You need to come outside and have a conversation with me because this shit is not finna keep happening. So they're in the window. I was angry, but I told her to come outside and talk to me because what we're not going to do is continue this and you're not going to put your hands on my daughter again. Now, I'm not trying to call the police, but if you think this is what you're going to be doing, you know, then it's going to be a bigger problem. That's when they threw knives out the window at me. When they did that, I was like, y'all crazy. Y'all crazy. I'm going to call the police. So as I walk away, but Bianca's already on the phone with the police. She's a block away. You know, she wear her fur and her heels. She ain't got time to be going to people's front yard.
Oh yeah, Bianca don't play. She's a rider though. I love Bianca. Bianca Blanco. That's my girl. She's cool.
You know, so but the police had already been called. They heard the shots on the 911. So when we got back to the car, they was there. They pulled up with Matt. But I was actually walking away. When she came downstairs to the front door, I said, y'all crazy as hell. I'm gonna just go call the police. Ain't no dealing with crazy. Ain't no talking to y'all. And so I went to walk away. We were actually leaving. We were in her front yard, and as she made it to the door and before we made it out the front yard, we might have been, because she didn't bust in the air. She was busting at us 5 shots.
Okay, so is this woman, is she, like, what happened? Is she locked up now? Is she free? Like, what's going on?
Well, she ran from the house. So when they got there, they couldn't find her. They made everybody come out, them poor children. And here I come to think about the Black community. Like, her children came outside with their hands up. The other adult that was there, that was in the household, but I guess she left out the back. When she did shoot at us, my youngest daughter did fall in the ditch and she was terrified, and I picked her up and she fell again. So I'm wondering if the woman thought that she had shot my daughter, and maybe that's why she hit somebody. But when you shouldn't bullet, you might. So she ran off. She was not there. And as of yesterday, they still looking for her. So I don't know if they have caught her. But this is another sad detail. Let's look at the whole situation of it, is that this woman is going to be charged with, first of all, assaulting a minor, right? She's being charged with a legal firearm, and in most states that is a mandatory minimum of at least 5 years in a lot of places, because she doesn't have a gun registered under her name. They checked all of them things in finding this woman and who she was. They had the crime scene technicians picking up all of the shell casings, so they know that she was shooting directly at the crowd and the children. She was shooting at us, and we were walking away. We were in the street. We were getting ready to go across the little pass and go back to our car. So we were actually leaving. We were no threat to her. So for her to come out and shoot, she can't say she was fearful of anything. We were actually leaving. But she may possibly be facing attempted murder charges because you shot deliberately in a crowd full of children as they were leaving. You were not in any danger. And I will say that for a woman who woke up that morning, you know, trying to jump on little kids, and she should have just came outside and talked to the mother, even if it would have took a fight, even if it turned into a fight, because she ghetto. You should have just took this ass whooping, because now you're going to jail to a ridiculous extent, and you're a Black woman. They're going to throw the book at her, but this is how we deal with each other. And I guess the dilemma I had is, how do we community police for as much as I talk about that? Because I went to go speak with this woman, so we did not have to involve police, and see the extent that it went to. And that makes me sad too. She has a house full of children who have no daddy, and now they have no mother. And so even in the midst of all of that, and what happened with me and my children, we're okay. And I feel sorry for this woman because she didn't have to handle it that way. She woke up that day living her life, and before the night was over, you have ruined your life, woman. And you have ruined the life of your children because now they have no parents. So what's going to happen to them? So even in the midst of all of that, I feel compassion and pain for her family and her children, and understanding what's wrong with her that she's so traumatized that you think this is okay to shoot at people and beat up children. Like, what is wrong with you? And what happened to you? And, you know, and so I look at the bigger picture, and I'm glad we're okay, but I feel bad for her family. And I can't say, I don't want to see her go to prison for that long, but at the same time too, you can't just be out here recklessly shooting at damn kids for nothing. Nobody did anything to you, lady. You kind of crazy, and maybe you don't need to be on the streets. But the truth is, in the hood, we pull out a gun and we bust at people all the time. That's why kids get shot with stray bullets in the park. So I'm sorry to say, there's a lot of people in our community who have the same mentality as that woman. And that's the sad.
Yeah, and I mean, and she was shooting at your kids. I mean, I think you're being a lot more balanced about it than I think a lot.
We okay. We okay. And that's why I can take some time myself and look back at the situations a couple of days later, you know, because we're all okay. But
be careful. Just be careful. Like I'm worried about you. I want to make sure you're all right. Well, everybody who's been watching, again, I did not know the conversation was going to take that twist. It was almost like I saw this movie called Dusk Till Dawn with George Clooney a long time ago. And the movie started off one way where they were on vacation and having a good time. And then all of a sudden, everybody turned into vampires and it became a vampire movie. Like right in the middle of the fucking movie. Like I didn't even expect this. And that's kind of how I feel like this interview went. Like I thought we were talking about this. And then you tell this story, like, by the way, this weekend, me and my kids got shot at by a lady who threw a knife at us. And I was like, I didn't know this was gonna happen. But I'm glad that you're safe, Mechee. I'm glad that you're okay. I'm glad your children are okay as well, for sure. And I agree with you. My heart goes out to the children of this woman, because you're right. I mean, you know, it sounds like trauma on top of trauma. Mm-hmm. And those, you know, her children are going to be extremely traumatized if they don't have their mama. So wow. Oof. Okay, well, everybody, this was Mechee X, and we just had a really lively conversation about all kinds of issues. And I'd say the key word in this whole conversation has been trauma, where we, you know, have situations where we traumatize each other, where we're traumatized by white supremacy, where we go through things that we think everything's okay, we act like everything's okay, but it's not. Trauma is very real. It has a very real impact on the brain. And what I encourage you to do is to take some of the notes that she just mentioned in this conversation and accept the fact that you do have vulnerabilities. You do have pain. Black pain is real. It's okay to acknowledge the pain. It's also important and okay to get therapy. There's no stigma about getting therapy. Everybody can use some good therapy. Everybody can. You know, so let's change that part of our culture so we can be healthy and we can really show the love to each other and to ourselves that we really deserve. So I want to say thank you very much, Mechee X.
Thank you for having me.
It was definitely real, even realer than I thought it was going to be, but it's always real talking to you.
Look, this was like one of them phone conversations. You know, we go from A to Z. We've been talking about 50 things. We ain't stay on track today, but I still think it all comes back together to the bigger picture of what we're talking about here.
Yeah, there's never a dull moment. So everybody, I want you all to go follow Mechee, follow her on her YouTube channel and Instagram. Just look up Mechee X and you'll find it, Mechee, 2 E's, F-E-N, and 1 E in the beginning. And find her, follow her. Also, if you're on YouTube or anywhere else, please hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button, the share button, subscribe button, and all that stuff so other people can see this conversation. Don't forget, we are on iTunes, so download it on iTunes. Also, if you want to get a text notification when we go live, you can text the word Boyce to 31996, text Boyce to 31996, and we'll notify you when we go live. So I want to say thank you again, Mechee, for joining me. It's a pleasure. I don't think we haven't done a conversation together online for probably almost a year now, right?
It's been a while. Yeah, at the beginning, we did some, but then once I was going live Monday through Friday, like I was always live.
Right.
It's been a minute. It has. It's been a while.
Yeah, but it was 10 times. It was really fun the first time. This time it was even more fun, and we're gonna have more fun in the future. And I want everybody to know I support Mechee. I think she's excellent at what she does. And also, we really appreciate you guys for your support as well. Without you, we're nothing. So thank you very much. And take care, Mechee. Have a good day, and be careful, okay?
All right.
All right. See you later. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.